This is a Vauxhall Corsa 2003 with the 4-digit stereo. You have 3 options on the audio systems in these: 4-digit, 3-digit and 2-digit. The way to tell is to look at the model number. This one is a CAR 2003, so it has 4 digits on the part number. 203 would be 3-digit and 23 would be 2-digit. All of the stereos are removed in the same way. You would need to use the double DIN ISO removal keys in these holes. Some of the models will have grub screws installed, so we need to remove these grub screws first. Then we can insert the release keys to remove the stereo. The difference it's going to make to you is whether it's a 2-digit stereo. If it's a 2-digit stereo, then it doesn't have the ISO connections that we need to plug the new stereo cables in. So you need a quad lock adapter. The 3-digit and the 4-digit have basic ISO and then a 10 pin or 20 pin at the very top of the connector. These ones will just plug in straight away, and we just need to swap the ignition and the live ground for it to work correctly. The 2-digit, we would have to have a quad lock connector and run our own ignition live, which I'll cover in a moment. Now we have the grub screws up, slot the keys in. They will go in around about halfway. Do not force these too far in, because if you push them right up to the edge, you will lock the mechanism up. We now pull outwards and pull the stereo towards. That will now remove the stereo from the unit. The wiring stays attached to the cage inside, so we now need to remove that, which is a T20 screw in the centre. Now we can squeeze the cage inwards slightly, and remove the cage and unclip the wiring loom. Now, as I mentioned earlier, with this being a 4-digit, it has your 2 ISO connections and it has a 20 pin connector at the top for the display. The 3-digit will have a 10 pin connector at the top, and we just ignore these and only use the 2 ISO connections for these installs. If it's the 2-digit, you'll be using a quad lock connector, which only has a permanent live. It has no ignition live, so we need to go to the cigarette lighter socket. Now for that one, we would lift the cigarette lighter socket up, pop your thumb inside and just pull, and the whole case will just pull outwards, gaining access to the wiring loom at the back of the cigarette lighter sockets. The cable colouring is brown and black. Brown is the earth colour, which is a common colour amongst all of the wiring looms. Black is the cable we need to go to for an ignition source. To get to the back of that wiring, there is one T20 screw down the side of the panel here. If you remove that, you can then lift the side of the panel out. You can bring the cable in around underneath to the back. In this instance, we don't need to worry about that because it's ISO. So we just take the cable out, plug our adapters in, checking that none of the pins have been pushed out, and now we need to swap the red and yellow. Yellow is your memory wire and red is your ignition wire. On the Vauxhalls, they're back to front, so we need to just swap them around. The fascia will just clip straight in. Push it in, being very gentle with these pins here, as they can snap off very easily. Gently push it in at the bottom first. We can then drop the top down and lock that in place. Now that locked in place, we can now insert the cage. Bend the pins around the back of the dashboard to secure everything in place nicely. The best tool for this is just a basic flathead screwdriver. You can put it in and twist it to bend the pins nice and simply. Now we need to use an aerial adapter. And on the Vauxhalls, the aerial is unfortunately a very, very weak clip. So if we install the aerial adapter into the stereo first, we can then pull the cabling out, plug in your audio and power connections first, and then have some electrical tape ready. Put a strip of electrical tape along the top of the stereo. We can then plug the aerial on the back and run the tape around the back to hold the aerial on. It's very common for this to just fall off in the back of the dashboard. Now start feeding the cabling in, and pushing it out of the way. Gently insert the stereo, and we can now run a quick test to make sure that the memory is correct by storing a couple of stations. Turn the ignition off and leave it for a few seconds. With the Sony models, you'll hear this beep, which is just a reminder that the faceplate is stored. This now shows that the memory wire is intact. On all other models, turn it back on and just double check that it comes back to your radio stations. With everything stored, we can now just push the stereo in nicely and clip the last piece of trim on the outside, and we're finished.